Well, hello, welcome once again to Pale Blooms and Beyond. Thank you for joining us today. If you do like the programming you see here and the musicians and artists that I visit with, please be sure and hit the like button below and also subscribe to the channel. Torquil MacLeod is a Scottish singer, bassist, guitarist, and synth player. Torquil was the frontman for late 80s band Reserve. The band had its origins in 1986, and there were several lineup changes over the course of the band's time together. The first recorded output was a flexidisc single released in 1987. The following year came Reserve's only single, a four-track affair released on Sombrero Records. There were other demos recorded, but the lack of record label interest and Torquil's relocation to Brighton nixed any future development, and the band called it a day at the end of 1989. For 30 plus years, Mr. MacLeod has worked as a radio producer, having been at the other end of the interview process. But the creative muse was still there. An album was released in 2010 under the moniker the Atom Miksa Reservation. And for the past 10 years, my guest has ventured into electronica, creating synthesized soundscapes. You can check out his latest work on Bandcamp. Well, welcome, Torquil.
Thank you very much indeed, Greg. Lovely to meet you.
Well, take us back to the beginning. What part of Scotland were you born in?
I was born just to the east of Glasgow, just outside a town called Airdrie. It's in fact a small North Lanarkshire mining village called Wattston. But as you may be able to judge from my accent, I didn't hang around there for very long. Family moved to the south of England when I was still quite young, but I still had family up in Scotland for a long time, so still continued to go up there regularly and still do. So yes, I may not sound it, but I am Scottish.
One side of my family, my dad's is Scottish.
Okay.
And I need to research and do that lineage and research my roots. We did come across, one of those coat of arms, and I had a copy, and I don't know where it is, but it did say that we were southwest, I believe.
Okay. So somewhere sort of Galloway, Dumfriesshire, around there, I guess. Okay.
Yes,
well, you should go and check it out. You should definitely pay a visit.
Yes, I need to go. Well, do you recall how old were you when you relocated to England?
Oh, I was still, I was about 1 year old. So, yeah. And so I grew up about 40 miles west of London, in the countryside. And I guess, the relevant thing is that I was always, from as far back as I can remember, I was always making, sounds of some kind or another. I've got my little show and tell pack here. Now you see, here I am. This is me.
Okay.
This is me, age 3, I believe.
Oh, okay.
And so what we have here is a biscuit tin with some elastic bands stretched around it, and a small yogurt pot with some gravel in it. And I can remember, shaking the yogurt pot and plucking the bands. So
making a little music there. There you go.
Absolutely. Yeah. No. And my grandparents, who lived very, very close over the road, they had a piano. So I was always, playing. I never sort of learned formally, but just sort of was always trying things out on it.
Did you have family gatherings around the piano?
No, not so much. No. But my granny sometimes sang some songs at the piano, but mainly I was just like kind of slamming away on it, seeing what sounds it might make. When I was 6, I got a little ukulele and a pair of cymbals. Mainly got the cymbals to try and stop me from smashing the saucepan lids together, which were getting bent out of shape because I was, so that was mainly to protect the kitchenware.
Yeah, and your parents' ears as well.
Exactly. I was encouraged to go and play them down at the bottom of the garden. I was told it would help the onions grow. Um,
Oh, there
but
you go.
there you go.
What an excuse, yeah.
But yeah, but you know, and I can remember I'd sort of when I got the cymbals, I'd sort of like kind of get pencils and stick them in a cupboard and put them on the end of there, and then assemble various cans around and
Yeah.
construct a drum kit. And so, I was always doing that sort of stuff, really.
Oh, okay. Where did that gene come from? That musical gene?
Don't know really. I mean, I've got writers, I've got visual artists, sort of like kind of in my previous generations, but not so much musicians, but yeah.
What were your earliest recollections of music? Artists,
W-
songs? Did you?
Well, I mean, the stuff my mum listened to. My mum listened to a lot of sort of opera and light opera. So we had like kind of, I mean, there's sort of Gilbert and Sullivan in the house, the Gilbert and Sullivan opera Rudigor on 78s. So a whole sort of like kind of album booklet of these different sort of of these 10-inch 78 discs. I mean, God, this makes me sound absolutely
No,
fossilized, doesn't it?
no.
I
My
mean,
dad had those too. My dad had on his hi-fi. Yes,
but
yes,
anyway, so there was that. There was she also had an EP of Noel Coward singing some of his songs. I like kind of, Don't Put Your Daughter on the Stage, Mrs. Worthington, London Pride, which is actually a very beautiful song. Um, the Irish tenor John McCormack singing When Irish Eyes Are Smiling. Kenneth McKellar, the Scottish singer, singing the Song of the Clyde, all this sort of stuff. So this was like, but then I think it was stuff that my sister was 3 years older than me. So things that she was getting, I was sort of like kind of going to, yeah, I mean, I remember she had like kind of Puppet on a String by Sandy Shaw and um, Paradise Was Half as Nice by Amen Corner and all stuff like this, and this like 1970s best of the year album with Jimi Hendrix and Norman Greenbaum and all this sort of stuff on it. So, hearing all of these things.
yeah. That's
Um,
the second time I've heard Norman Greenbaum. He doesn't come up very
right.
often, but yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, Spirit in the Sky is just like, it's got such a groove to it, hasn't it?
It
You hear
does
that,
have
you're a
it.
kid, it's just like, oh yeah, okay,
It
this is
does,
interesting.
and that fuzzy guitar. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Bah, 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 bah. Oh, lovely, lovely.
yeah.
Um, but it was, that when it really sort of like kind of went boom was with for me was glam rock really, sort of 1972, 73. And again, I think it was my sister, well, and a good friend of mine lived over the road who again was 3 years older than me. So like kind of singles by Sweet Slade, but I mean most importantly David Bowie. Like my sister got the single of Life on Mars with Man Who Sold the World on the B-side, and it's just suddenly hit, just like kind of just suddenly it went
Yeah,
bang.
yeah.
That was it.
That grabbed you. Yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah.
good to have an older sibling, like you said. Kind of to
It's it
help influence you. Yeah, yeah,
it helps enormously. It really does, I mean, especially like kind of back then where, it's okay. I mean, you hear certain sort of like kind of stuff on the radio and that, but you know, people don't necessarily have, especially like kind of that sort of age, don't have that many records, so you're limited in what you're actually going to hear, So it's there's a certain amount of luck involved.
Oh yes, yes.
Um, so yeah, so there was that, and then and I think, I mean, she bought me, I think for my ninth birthday, got me Solid Gold Easy Action by T-Rex.
Oh, I was going to mention T-Rex. Yeah,
Yeah.
yes.
And then, and then the following year, I bought a first album I bought Aladdin Sane. And then that was kind of, and then the year after, got a bit of money for a birthday and like kind of bought four more Bowie albums and like kind of that was it. Off we
Yeah.
go.
If you go, yeah. Did you happen to see my interview with Andy Ellison?
Oh, I didn't. No.
John's Children, Mark Bolan.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Fantastic. God, amazing.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
He was very interesting. Very interesting. Yeah. What was the first instrument that you learned to play?
Um, I mean, sort of I bought I guess when I was about 12, I got a little electric reed organ with the, like,
Okay.
kind of the chord buttons and the keyboard. So I sort of, that was the first thing I kind of really started beginning to write stuff of my own on. And then, like, kind of very shortly after that, I got my first guitar, just normal, like, kind of, classical Spanish guitar. And that's what, and actually started learning proper chords and stuff. So that was the first time I'd kind of really, yeah, properly learned an instrument after a fashion.
Uh,
Um, yeah.
can you remember the first single or album that you bought yourself?
The first single with my own money that I bought, I think, was Rubber Bullets by 10cc.
Ah,
Um,
yes.
which is great actually because it's got a song called Waterfall on the B side, which is kind of quite, which is really interesting actually, and it's got some now.
Yes.
I think I'm not sure if it's backwards guitar in it or what, but
Yeah.
there's a little thing that comes in after the chorus, which is just really interesting sonically. Anyway, so that was yeah
I prefer waterfall. I prefer that to
yeah yeah
rubber
yeah.
bullets. Is a good song, but yeah,
Well, that was, that was the sort of gateway drug, and then sort of like kind of, then you flipped it over and went, oh well, this is interesting,
yeah,
I mean, it's a bit like, with Cockney Rebel got a couple of their singles, and you had like kind of Mr. Soft, which was kind of quite weird in its own right, and then like kind of flipped that, and I kind of, oh my God, I can't remember what the B side was called, but that was like really kind of odd, and it was just like, oh
yeah.
well, this is good. It has
Oh,
to. It has to be said that kind of post glam. I mean, like kind of where I headed after that again through having an older best friend was like kind of prog.
right,
Absolutely
right.
down the line
Yeah,
prog.
I
So
was I was talking to Steve Harley's agent, and
okay,
I didn't know about his health, and prior to him passing away, probably
mm,
a few months before, and then they kind of, he kind of kept putting me off, and now I know why, but
yeah, of course.
yeah, that's that. Sebastian is my favorite of Cogni Rebel. I just love that one. Well,
They were such
yeah,
an interesting band, I think, weren't they?
yeah,
I mean, yeah, yeah,
they,
yeah.
yes, they were. Yes, they were. Well, how about can you remember one of the first concerts, live shows that you went to?
Well, having said, the prog sort of entered into my life. So the first big gig I went to was 1977, and that was Yes at what was then the Wembley Empire Pool,
Oh,
uh, which was magnificent. Actually, that was their on their Going for the One tour. So
right. Yes.
yeah,
I was fortunate enough to see them a couple of times. I think it was later. Yeah, it was the tour after that that I first saw them. But yeah, yeah, great shows. Great.
yeah,
Right.
absolutely, yeah. So no, so that was cool.
Well,
Well, it was cool. It was cool, but it was also the thing that you sort of like kind of absolutely didn't mention about sort of 3 years later. Like,
yes, yes.
suddenly year zero arrived, and it was like kind of, hastily shuffle all your prog albums off to the second-hand shop and pretend you never had them.
Right. It's interesting how that happens, bands that you are secretly into at the time and all your friends were not, or all the cool kids were not into. And then maybe even flipping and doing the opposite. Years later, it's cool to talk about them. But at the
Yeah.
time, ABBA was one for me. It's like, oh,
Ah, right. Yeah,
but you
yeah.
didn't want to bring that up. You seem lightweight if you would talk about that. But yeah, well, that's very interesting. And my first concert was Chicago,
Oh, really?
76,
What's
76.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And then Frank Zappa was the second one. So it's kind of went extremes
Wow, nice.
on
Yeah.
those. I think around the same year. Yeah. Well, were you in a band prior to Reserve?
Yeah. So I mean, I first sort of like kind of started, I mean, I started playing with people when I was about 15. Um, and I mean, which was just tended to be like kind of bedroom, or shed at the end of the garden stuff. I mean, like kind of not actually getting around to gigging. The first gigging, well, in fact, the first gig I ever did was when I was 16, and that was, I mean, bizarrely enough, was with a jazz quintet, playing bass, which was great actually. I mean, that was at school, and there's this really talented piano player who's a couple of years ahead of me, and he sort of like kind of wanted to get this together, so he put it together with a guitarist and a drummer who I was already sort of like kind of playing some sort of like kind of hard rock covers with anyway, sort of in rehearsal rooms at the school, and this sax player who was a tutor who came in from outside, but you know he was proper. He played sessions for the BBC and stuff like that, and he was probably about 30 or some ridiculously ancient
Oh,
age like
ancient,
that,
I was going to
and
say.
he was really good. So yeah, so we put together this set of like kind of numbers by like Horace Silver and Sonny Rollins and you know, Chick Corea and all this stuff, and like kind of, you know, played to the school and to parents, and it went down really well, which was great. So that was yeah.
Yeah. So they like that sound. Okay.
Yeah. Um,
Did anybody
so
go on to play in any other bands from that? Go.
I've no idea. I don't know. I mean, I left, you know, I sort of left the school very shortly after that. So, you know, and didn't stay in touch with them. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Who knows? Who knows?
Right.
None of them are global superstars to the best of my knowledge.
Right.
Um,
Unless
but
they've changed their names and appearances.
yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Radical plastic surgery. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Well, you had the idea for the band. The germs were there germinating in '85, but then it was like another year later before you actually got the band together. Yeah, like
Yeah. Well, that's right. Because I'd met Johnny Johnson, who put the Sidleys together. We met in 1984 when we were both working at a theatre company in West London, and so she was looking to put a band together, and I sort of like kind of started writing a few songs as well. So I mean, basically, we were sort of doing both trying to put together bands at the same time, really, which was kind of helpful. Um, and yeah, I mean the first sort of lineup that I got was probably sometime in 1985, but it was kind of, you know, hopeless. Didn't get any further than one rehearsal. It was just like, oh my God, none of us should ever have to endure this again. This is bloody awful. So you know, it took a while to find the people through a sort of like kind of a variety of different subterfuges. I mean, like kind of, you know, straightforward things like I think I put an ad in the NME or the Melody Maker. I don't know if anything came from that. Definitely put an ad up in the Rough Trade shop in Notting Hill, and I mean, I most successfully, I think, I mean, I was going to loads and loads of gigs at the time, so you know, I kind of thought, well, the thing is, the kind of people I want are going to be going to the same gigs as I am. So if I saw someone who I thought, oh, they look quite cool, I just go up to them and say, you know,
yeah.
do you play an instrument? And if they said yes, I'd say, do you want to be in a band? You know, and that kind of worked. You know,
Yeah, that's right. I've heard doing these that, you know, the bands would go to see other bands. I mean,
yeah,
you know, they're
yeah.
in the audience, a lot of
No,
the,
very much so. Yeah.
yeah. So you could just kind of, pick them out. Yeah, like you said, Well, who was in the original unit?
So the first lineup that actually played a gig was Ian Gregg on guitar, who latterly went on to form the James Dean Driving Experience.
Yeah.
On drums, a guy called Philip Powell, and then playing bass was Simon Armstrong, who was at that time putting Bob together with Richard Blackborough.
Okay.
So that's when I first met Simon and Richard, was sort of in 1986. And again, I'd gone up to Simon at a Thousand Violins gig in Brixton, and said, do you play anything?
Yes,
You-
love that band. Yes, yeah.
yeah, so yeah, so we played our first gig towards the end of 1986, and Ian left very, very shortly after that to go and do his James Dean driving experience thing. So the first demos we recorded, which were a little bit later that year, was me, because in that original lineup I was just singing, and Ian was playing guitar and blah blah blah. So the first demos we did, I played guitar and sang, and Simon played bass and Philip played drums. So yeah.
Okay. Was that first gig the one that you were in support of the Wishing Stones?
It was
Okay.
indeed. Yeah.
That's another one that I picked up from the Sound of Leamington Spa.
Ah, right.
They're
Yeah.
on their Beat Girl, Beat Girl.
That's right. Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah. No, I remember that.
So I have to show this. I know and you have a copy as well.
I
So
do, I do, I do.
this
There we
is
are.
there
Snap.
we go. Look at that
Hooray.
snap. And this
Show
is
and tell. Yes.
the fun show and tell. Oh man, that brings back memories. Volume 2. Yeah, this is
Yeah.
volume 2. And then you guys were on here with Butcher's Daughter was the track.
Okay, that's right. Which comes from a little bit later on. In fact, sort of towards the end of it, or towards the end of the story. So we'll
We'll get
save that. We'll
there.
save that for a little bit later. So what happened was, Philip, who was playing drums with me, also went off to join Ian in the James Dean driving experience. And so there was me playing guitar and singing, there was Simon playing bass, and the aforementioned Richard Blackborough, Simon's Bob bandmate, came in and played drums. So that was then the next lineup was sort of like kind of 2/3 Bob and one me. Was reserve, and so we gigged like that, and we also went and recorded another set of demos. These were all down in the Bob studio in darkest Somerset, which, funnily enough, is now I live in Bristol now,
Yeah.
and it's just it's just over the hill that way. Really, it's quite bizarre how these things happen. But
Yes.
anyway, so we went and recorded some demos, and right, okay, so look, it's a copy of
There we go.
Trout Fishing in Leytonstone, a magnificent fanzine produced by Ali Payne. And in this particular edition, this came with, ta-da!
There we go.
Sorry about the banging the mic. Very, very unprofessional.
That's okay.
So this is a flexidisc.
There's a flexi disc for you. Yes. Right.
And so this is a split flexidisc, Sidleys and Reserve. Wherever you go by the Sidleys, the sun sits down behind the tower by us. So that came out, and that was great. So that was the first Reserve release.
Yes.
And
The-
people pay quite unlikely amounts of money for these now.
Yes, I imagine they are worth a lot. And the era of the fanzines, like you said,
Yeah.
What an idea, what a concept,
But anyway, so that was great. We actually got something out, and we got a little article in Record Mirror,
Okay.
a magazine of the time, and a photograph of us. So that was great. So upwards and onwards.
There you go. So you did get some publicity from that. Good.
We
Good.
did. So that was great.
Well, I like the sound of the sun slid down behind the door. And that was the track that you're referring to there. And it would show up again on the 4-track single.
It would, yeah. I mean, I think, I don't know. I think I prefer the original, version that we did over the one we did for the EP.
Yeah.
There was something that this was a session that we did at the Bob Studios in was it Easter 1987. it's great. The Sidleys and us went down there, and we both like kind of spent a long weekend down there, and like kind of both went and recorded a bunch of demos. And but that was no, it was really successful. There's just something about the kind of spirit of those recordings that I really liked. It
Yeah.
was, yeah, yeah.
Was that the same time period that you recorded on some of the Sidley's tracks?
No, now
That was a
that
little
you
bit
see
later.
that goes back earlier
Oh,
because
earlier. Okay.
as I say, back in 1985, when Johnny was first like looking to put a band together, she'd written a bundle of songs and wanted to record them. I had in fact it's still up in a cupboard there, an Akai 2 reel to reel
Okay.
tape machine, which you could like kind of basically you could do sound on sound recording on it by effectively bouncing between the two mono tracks. I mean, it was a slightly more sophisticated version of like kind of recording onto one cassette and then blah blah blah. But it was fine. It was primitive, but it worked. So
It
you could do like kind of multi-tracking on it. So I mean that's what I used for all of my sort of original demos.
Okay.
And so I helped Johnny record like kind of all the demos of her songs, and I like kind of played, did like drum programming, played bass, and played a bit of guitar on some of them as well. And some of those actually were released by Fire Station Records in Berlin on.
Recently.
Yeah, I think it's the Sidley's thing, songs from the sidings.
Yeah.
I think
I
that's what it's
think,
called.
think
Anyway, yeah, that's got some of the original home demos that I recorded with Johnny. So that was nice
so.
to. It was weird hearing them again after all these years.
After all
Actually, I
those,
was
after all well, fast forwarding back up to the recording, talk about the recording sessions for the songs that would end up on the EP.
okay. So yes, so let's here we are, EP.
Yes, right, right. There we go.
Yeah, there we
With
are.
the ashtray on the
Well,
cover. And
that's right.
yeah,
Nice cool.
you still have a copy. Oh, it's still in great shape. There you go.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so so this was recorded in uh God, when was it recorded? June 1988, it says
June.
here. And this was in West London, recorded at Triple X Studios, produced by Steve Parker, who I had worked with before, because prior to rewinding back to about 1983, I'd been playing with this guy, Desmond Simmons, who himself was sort of like kind of on the periphery of like kind of Wire. And he'd recorded with Colin Newman on two of his solo albums, and had an album out himself. Anyway, we'd recorded some demos together and taken those round record companies, and we're on the verge of on the verge of signing with CBS, but decided that they weren't showing enough commitment, and so blew them out.
Is that right?
The crazy things you do when you're 19. But there we are. I think it was probably the right decision. Anyway,
Yeah.
Steve Parker was the had engineered a couple of the Colin Newman albums, and I think some stuff for Wire. And he produced a few some stuff for The Fall, like The Man Whose Head Expanded and How I Wrote Elastic Man and all that.
Marquise. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I knew Steve, so that was great. So we got him in to produce. Um, I mean, the EP is fine. I just think it's just one of those things that we're kind of quite inexperienced in terms of being in a big studio,
Yeah, yeah.
and didn't really necessarily have a clear enough idea of exactly what we wanted to kind of get out of it. And I don't think necessarily communicated what we wanted to get out of it to Steve that well. And obviously, we only had a very limited amount of studio time to
Okay.
record and mix it. So, hey, it's kind of fine, but it's
Yeah.
like kind of, it lacks a bit of heart and soul, I think, really. But hey, don't let that stop you from paying a ridiculous amount of money for a secondhand copy.
Good
You know,
effort there.
uh,
Yes, yes. Well, I have to say, I mean, Two Hearts Beat in a Hole, that was the A side, but I like the mellower tracks that you guys did.
yeah.
I like the more breezy feel of Tender Young Believer.
Mm.
That's a nice one. And then maybe my favorite on the four tracker is A Perfect Lie.
Ah.
A very pretty song. Yeah, so I tend to gravitate to those type tracks. Yeah,
Cool, cool.
yeah,
Oh well, that's nice. I mean, I tell you, I mean, one track from sort of around, well, in fact, that got recorded for the April 1987 demos that I was always actually really pleased with as a song, and it's a nice recording. It's a shame it didn't sort of get put out anywhere. It's a song called "The Last Train Home," which
that was one I
is
was going to bring up. There you go.
ah, right. Okay. Okay.
Very
Okay.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yes,
No, because
yes,
it's just it's not. I
yeah,
quite like that one.
yes. I do too. I do too. And I was going to mention it,
Okay.
and
Oh well.
you
Yeah.
you did. So there you go. Great minds think alike, right? So, well, did what kind of responses, like from fans or critics? Did you get any airplay off of that four tracker?
It did. We got played by the marvelous Mr. John Peel,
Oh, good for you.
which
There you
it's basically it's like kind of that's it.
yes,
You
yes.
have been blessed. You have been sanctified
Yes,
by the man himself. Yeah, so I mean that was fantastic. I mean, I went and stood outside Egton House, the building that Radio One came out of in central London, and ambushed him on his way into the show, and shoved a copy into his hand,
yes.
and he played it. So he played The Sun Slid Down Behind the Tower. So that was yeah, I was very pleased about that. Um, I mean, it didn't really cause a lot of a stir apart from that, in fairness. I mean,
Yeah.
I did get called called because my phone number was on the sleeve, and I was like kind of living in this fairly grotty housing co-op flat, and like kind of was just bumbling around minding my own business, and the phone rang, and it was someone phoning from Osaka in Japan saying they'd got the single, and like kind of it's just like,
Yeah, right.
well, this is crazy,
Yes.
but
Yeah, I talked to one guy not long ago, and they actually ended up doing a John Peel session, and he was living at home with his mother, and the phone rang. I guess he was there with a couple of friends, and she answered, "Yes, he's here. Uh, John Peel would like to speak with you." Whoa, they were just like, wow. Yes, he ran
yeah,
to the phone after that. Yes, it was.
yeah, fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's yeah, very interesting about that. The I'm sure that the being on Sound of Leamington Spa, did that spark any interest years later? Did you get any reaction
Well,
to that?
a little bit, and so
Yeah,
that song that is on the Leamington Spa album, Butcher's Daughter, we
yeah,
recorded that. Also, I should say, like, kind of really importantly, is the fact that between um, the sessions that yielded the flexi version of Sunset Town by the Tower and us going into the studio to do the EP, there've been a significant lineup change. First of all, I've
right.
got a new drummer in, Jonathan Sim, and then guitarist Michael Harris and bassist Jason Ellis had joined. So it's complete lineup change. Um, and fantastic. I mean, it worked really well. I mean, we played, it was tremendous actually. I mean, they were really good players, and you know, and we got on really well together. It was a very, very harmonious lineup, and we played together, did quite a lot of gigs, um, and went and recorded this, so that was great. Um, and then obviously we were keen, we wanted to do uh, another single if at all possible, and sort of see where it took us. So we went and recorded some more tracks, demoed some more tracks, and this time it was down in Brighton, although I hadn't actually moved to Brighton at this stage. But it was down in Brighton at Grant Lyons' house. Grant Lyons, who had oh God, what label did he have? He had some label anyway.
Okay.
Uh, and he bought, but anyway, he had a home studio. So we recorded Butcher's Daughter, What People Say, and Postcard from Paradise down there. I mean, which I was really, I was really pleased with how those turned out. It has to be said, but we didn't manage to get any interest in terms of a label. And then, as you sort of alluded to in your introduction, I'd been, we'd all been up in London, and I'd moved down to Brighton with the intention that I'd sort of like kind of keep things going. But I mean, in reality, of course, that didn't happen. So it just sort of went
It just kind of faded. Yeah.
dissipated. Yes.
Right.
Slow fade to nothing.
Yes.
So yeah, so that was that. And then
Well, I wanted to, before we move on, from Beneath the London Sky,
yeah,
that's that Fire Station release. Oh, do you have a copy? You have a copy there?
available on
Oh,
CD
there
on
we
CD and vinyl. Rush while stocks last.
And all fine retailers. Yes.
Exactly.
Right.
I've come prepared, Greg. I've come
You have.
prepared.
You really have. You really have. Good. Kudos to you. Well, I wanted to mention you already talked about Last Train Home. Yeah, it's
Mm,
one of my favorites off of that. Uh, Cut You Down. That one has kind of a mod feel with the keyboard.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
I like that's a little different. Yeah.
That's Richard Blackborough playing keyboard on that, because obviously, I mean, all of the recordings at the Bob Studio, he's engineering and producing those, and adding his own little bits of magic. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, well, that was originally the song that we were going to have as the first single, rather than Two Hearts Beat in a Hole.
Okay.
But that demo version you hear of it there, kind of, we weren't as sure of it, because I'd done a previous demo version of it that actually was fantastic, bit sonically imperfect, but actually the sort of drive of it and the sort of vitriol was great. But that sort of like kind of, yeah, but then we decided against it. It's a shame, actually, because I think it would have actually made a good single. But
Yeah,
hey,
yeah, yeah, yeah. It had that feel to it.
whatever.
Right. And then one more that I like off of that collection is "So Brave." I like that one.
Oh right,
Yeah.
yeah. Now that's interesting, because that's from the very first session we did down at the Bob Studio at the end of 1986. Um, and I mean, in some ways, it's the most generically indie of the lot, isn't it? It's like kind of
It, it is. It is.
it's very much sort of like kind of Velvet Underground first album drum beat, and like kind of
Yes.
but
Yes.
yeah, no, it has a certain charm to it, I guess. Yeah. No, I'm glad you like it. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. You can tell it was an older track, but yeah, you
yeah.
can. But it does have that more generic kind of feel. But I like that too as well. Uh,
Cool.
then you well, again, going back, you moved to Brighton.
I did.
How did you become involved in working as a radio producer? Yeah.
Um, Well, I mean, sort of by accident, really. Very shortly after I moved down to Brighton at the end of 1989, I got involved with a sort of temporary radio station down there that was broadcasting during, as a annual arts festival that goes on in Brighton. And so in May 1990, this station was just broadcasting for the duration of the festival. So I got involved with that and like kind of got a crash course in learning how to edit with tape, of course. We're talking 1990 here. Oh yeah, China pencil and a razor blade and a editing block, all that stuff. So yeah, doing that. So I ended up, making a few features for that and doing a bit of reporting. And then carried on sort of like, and I was doing sort of various bits and bobs down in Brighton, but returned to doing this radio station the subsequent couple of years and ended up sort of producing an arts show on there and then like kind of presenting one. And anyway, between all that, a BBC radio producer who lived down in Brighton heard some of the stuff that I'd done, got in touch, said, "Do you want to make some features for this series that I'm doing on BBC Radio 4?" So I went, "Yes, please, I'll do that."
Yes.
And then he got in touch again and said, "Do you want to do 3 months research on the next series of this program?" I said, "Yes, I would like to do that." So I went up and did that, and sort of I was there for like 30 years. So
Yeah, yeah. You mentioned research. I think that's my favorite part of doing these. These interviews
yeah,
is,
yeah,
is
yeah.
digging and doing that. And well, do you have any interesting stories? You mentioned this is kind of putting you on the other end. Normally, you're on my end.
Yeah.
Have you interviewed any interesting characters?
Well, I mean, in um my sort of role at the BBC was, I mean, as a producer, was mainly in doing the research, like kind of working out what a program's going to be about, getting the guests, talking to the guests, getting the guests in, like kind of briefing a presenter, helping write the script, blah blah blah, and then studio producing, editing, and all that. So I wasn't doing so much direct interviewing, but I mean, yeah, obviously met lots and lots and lots of people over the time. Did work on some programs where I had like live bands on as well, so like kind of used to get kind of bands in, which was cool. Um, but in terms of interviews that I have done, I was quite pleased because there was one program I was producing which like kind of had this really neat little uh feature within it, like regular feature, which was called Inheritance Tracks. And essentially people were asked like kind of about a piece of music that they'd like inherited from their parents, or like kind of that they'd got when they were growing up, and then another piece of music that they'd want to pass on to their children or to the next generation. And it was a nice little vehicle for them to talk a bit about the music, but also to talk about themselves. um, so I'd go off and record those, and it was great actually because like kind of out three of the ones I did, I managed to do three producers who between them have just like kind of produced such a phenomenal amount of music. I did uh, Nile Rodgers,
Oh,
uh,
yes.
Trevor Horn, and Brian Eno,
Oh,
and
did you? Did
so
you?
I mean that was a joy. I mean I
Oh,
mean the Eno one in particular,
I was
I
gonna,
went.
yeah, mention that. I
I
would
well
love to
I
talk. Yeah.
it was great. I got to go around to his studio in West London, and yeah, sort of did the interview, which took about 15 minutes, and then hung around for the rest of the hour, just him being very fascinating, and
Yeah.
just talking about all sorts of interesting stuff, and playing me old gospel songs and things. And
Right, right.
it's like, well, this is nice. I'm getting paid for this. I'm very happy.
There you go. Not
And
bad.
and I even got him to sign my copy of My Life in the Bush of Ghosts as well.
Oh,
But
did you? Okay, yes.
I mean, I couldn't resist. It was cheesy, but there we are.
One of my favorites too.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Well, yeah, you do those things. Well, yeah, it was nice, like you said, seeing your work come to fruition like that, doing all the research, and then
yeah.
seeing the final product, the show, come to fruition. Yeah. Yeah.
Also, I mean, apart from anything else, because tend to, I'll do quite a lot of arts programming and stuff like that, but covering a wide spectrum of stuff, and also sort of like kind of covering, some history and philosophy, economics, blah. The great thing is, it's just like, I every single week I was learning new things. I was finding out new stuff about the world. I was speaking to people who knew lots and lots of interesting things and finding out about these things and it's just like, it's just fantastic. It's like being on this continuing further education, it's like,
Right, right.
it's just, yeah. So yeah, not a bad gig really.
Not a bad gig. Well, yes, I was going to say that wouldn't be, at all. I would enjoy that kind of work. Well, uh, doing these interviews, I hear 99% of the time that once that music bug is there, it's always there, So you could, stay away for a little bit, but it was pulling you back. And the muse again was there. Uh, where did the name the Atom? Did I say that right? Mixa Reservation. Yeah.
Yeah, the
Where
the
reservation?
at
Where did that come
the,
from?
the Atom Miksa Reservation. Yes.
Oh, so hold that up. There we go.
Okay, let's get it out of its little
Yeah.
little bag. Right, so yes, the Atom Mixer Reservation.
Yeah, I like that.
So where did that come from? I kind of think I wanted a little tip of the hat to reserve in there, so I got reservation. Mixer. I think. Do you know what? I think that comes from the name of a guy who played drums for Curved Air called Florian Pilkington Mixer, which is
Oh,
just such a crazy name. Um, anyway, so there we are. An atom, God knows. Um, what this was, so this in about 2006, I'd never stopped playing music, but I kind of yeah, it sort
yeah.
of it
Yes,
went
there,
a bit
there he is.
quiet after
I was just looking
1990,
at it. He played drums. Yeah, I was just
He
looking at that.
did, he did.
Warrington Pilkington mix-up. Never would have thought of that. Never would have gone there.
Um,
Okay, well, go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah, so but I kind of started recording some like songs again in the sort of early 2000s, I guess. And then in 2006, I'd sort of like kind of upgraded from I had like kind of, a 4-track cassette Porter Studio and like kind of then I'd actually got a, 16-track hard disc recorder and that. So I'd started putting this stuff together and putting songs up on MySpace. Do you remember that? It seems
Yes,
such a long time ago.
it really does.
Um, but I mean, it was great for me because people who had been interested in reserve sort of like kind of found my stuff. Um, and they included this guy, Roque Ruiz, who ran this label called Cloudberry, based out of Florida.
Yes,
And he was producing these really dinky little little
see.
CDs.
Yes.
And so he said, "Yeah, I'll put one of those out." So that was cool. So that happened. Uh, and then some Japanese, well, no, another one. Actually, this was a sort of co-production he did with some Japanese label. This is the Apple Crumble EP, which I've got a track called Grace on. Um, anyway, so that was all happening. And then there was this other label called Series 2 based up in Nebraska.
Right, you
And
mentioned Nebraska. Yes, yes.
yeah, and they went and put out in 2010 this album, Cow Language,
That's
by
the
the
one. There it is, Cal
by
Language.
the Atom Miksa Reservation. So yeah, so I mean,
You
it
you
was it was fantastic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I wouldn't think of Nebraska as like the real hub of alternative alternative music, but who
Who
knows?
knew?
Who
Who
knew?
knew?
Wiley, Texas is not either, but that's where I live. So most people when they say, "Where are you? Are you close to Austin?" I said, "No, no, up near Dallas." Unfortunately, not the biggest music city, never has been, but
Hey,
I mean,
well,
you can't help where you grow up sometimes,
you can't.
Right,
Absolutely,
right. But I
absolutely.
I wanted to mention off of that cow language because you sent me, the file.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, some of the tracks on there that I was interested in that I like, it makes no difference. Uh,
Ah,
yeah, I like that one.
cool.
Uh, and then Animal Side. I think it's a track right after it. You know,
That's right. Yep, yep.
yep.
No, that's right. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. And then All the Freaks Are Dead has a nice melody. Yeah, yeah, that has a nice ring to it. Yeah.
That was of course that was it's one of those songs that that the title came first, you know.
Oh, okay, okay.
I actually heard in fact this was I know what it was. I was phoning someone up about a program like about old circuses and vaudeville and all this sort of stuff. And this woman like and I was saying blah 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 and just said, all the freaks are dead. And it was just like, right, I'm writing that down.
Yeah. Right.
That's yeah, I'm having that.
You're going to use that. That's right. It's funny how you hear things like that and they strike a
Yeah,
chord. They do.
yeah.
I like the piano in Tiny Islands. I like that. And then that nice groove towards the end of it, of the song too. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And that actually, I managed this guy who put out the album in Nebraska. Gosh, what's his name? It's Chris. Chris, that's right. Um, he put out a series of compilations as well. So that song Tiny Islands made it onto one of the compilations as well, which I was yeah, no, it's quite fun. A little bit of vocoder on it as well.
Yes,
Please.
yes, yes. Well, I'm glad it did get released, appear on another release as well. Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
and then the guitar riff in Come On Simone, Come On Simone.
Yeah,
Now that takes me back to that 70s guitar sound. You know what? That short, kind of, not long extended, but just kind of short little riffs.
I think you're right. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. No,
yeah.
I'm sure that's true. Yes, a short, punchy song about Jean-Paul Sartre with a French chorus. There we are.
Yes.
None more mainstream than that.
Thanks for shedding a little light on that one too. and, and then 2 million years, two millions. No, I typed it wrong. It's 2 million, right? 2 million or two.
2 million years. It is
Yeah,
2 million
yeah.
years. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
A
Yes.
pretty key piano and keyboard on that one. Yeah, that's another one with a nice keyboard.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's about going stargazing with my grandfather as a child.
oh, you remember that? Wow.
Yeah, yeah. Just
Yes.
gazing up at the universe, you know.
Yes, yes. Funny how those things stay with you. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yes. And then Stop It Now. I like all the instruments used on that one. You know,
Oh.
you pull in a lot of different effects on that one. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, by that time, because I'd got I mean, this was when the ever-growing synth collection was sort of like kind of just,
It was
and it's
mounting.
I mean, this was the Yamaha Motif X, which is a really good workstation. But it has, I mean, the great thing about it is that it's the acoustic instruments on it are actually pretty good, and like kind of so that's where all the strings come from
Yeah, yeah,
on that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
But,
And then one last one, Lauren's Tattoo. More traditional song structure on it, but I like the heavier guitar on that one. Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. No,
it's a good.
it does rock out a bit at the end, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's nice. It's nice, and an enjoyable listen, I must say, on
Oh,
that.
I'm really pleased. Good. No, that's really nice to hear. Thank you.
And thank you again for sending me those tracks.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Well, I thought it might be handy to have
Right,
an
right.
idea of what happened next. Yeah.
Yes. Well, speaking of next, what led you into the electronica genre?
Well, because I mean, the thing is, I've always had some sort of keyboards knocking about, but I sort of yeah, with the when I got the motif and then got a couple of other synths, just got became more and more interested in playing around with that. And then, like, when I got more sort of programmable synths, I became far more interested in, uh, creating sounds from there. So yeah, it just all led from that really. And I do, yeah. I mean, I'm now gazing at a forest of synthesizers over there,
Yeah.
and this is my happy place.
Right.
It's yeah, it's yeah. I just like doing this stuff. Really, I just find it really. I don't know what's the word for it. Enjoyable. That'll be the one. Yeah.
There you go. There you go. Well, from is it Gauk? Gowk.
Yeah,
Gauk, Gauk
Gaukstorm. Yeah,
from 3 years ago now. Yeah,
that's
full
correct. Yeah,
career.
yeah, yeah.
I have to say the cover is striking on that one. When at first glance, it looked like it might have been something digitally, created. But then when I looked closer, I said, oh, no, that's under a bridge. That's actually a photograph, very
It
centered.
is.
Yeah.
It's under one of the bridges that carries a motorway over the mouth of the Severn between just near Bristol over to Wales, which is
Is
actually very near where I am.
okay. Yeah, but very striking. I like that. I
Yeah,
like that cover. Yeah. It kind of pulls you in too.
cool.
One of those, that's a sign of a good cover, what other details are in here, that kind of thing, right? Uh, but Points West is a very nice, kind of relaxing song. Yeah, I could listen to that one all day. I mean,
Ah,
just doing things around the house, whatever I'm doing, I could just have that song playing. That's really really kind of nice. Yeah, I would
cool.
say that. Yeah, as far as that one, songs off of there. Now here's the ones that I'm gonna say see where your influences may lie,
Okay.
or what they kind of remind me of. A few of the tracks. The song "Craw." Is it "Craw"?
Hmm.
Okay, reminds me a little of Yellow Magic Orchestra. Do you remember?
Possibly so. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I was sort of aware of Yellow Magic Orchestra. I remember sort of seeing them on the Old Grove Whistle Test over here in the UK, sort of back
With
uh in the
Ryu,
1970s.
Ryuichi Sakamoto. Yeah,
That's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But
yeah,
I never really listened to much of their stuff. I mean, compared to Kraftwerk, for
okay,
instance. I mean,
yeah.
but yeah, I mean, all of that. I mean, certainly a lot of the electronic stuff coming out of Germany and so forth. Very, very much enjoyed. Yeah,
Maybe it has a little bit Asian feel to it, a little bit of that.
yeah, possibly so. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that could be subconscious, I mean, but they just,
Well,
and
the
different people hear different things, too.
the
So,
thing is, I've always I listen to a lot of different music. I mean, I've always been very sort of uh, you know, I'm not genre led
yeah,
as such. I kind of I always I firmly believe that within any genre there's going to be something that I like in there because it's
right.
more to do with the spirit with which the music is made and the integrity of it and if it's good it's good and it
Right.
doesn't matter. It doesn't
Yes.
matter what the label on it is.
Yeah,
It's like kind of
exactly.
if it's got that thing that
Yeah,
just goes whoomph that
right.
really connects, then
Yeah.
music is music really.
I have to say, yeah, none of the songs on here are derivative of any, particular band or sound or anything like that. But these are just certain things that I hear, that kind of recall or remind me of, I like Tangled. That reminds me of a little Tangerine Dream. Yeah.
Well, yeah, no, and it's not, I think, any coincidence that Tangerine Dream and Tangled begin with the first four letters. That that
Oh,
that that is entirely
oh
deliberate. Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Okay, okay. I didn't even typing that down. I didn't even get that. But yes, Tangled Tangerine. Yes, yeah. I hear some of their best material. It reminds me of some of their quality material. Yeah, and then it's Ilgot, right? Not Algot. Ilgot.
It is ill got. Yeah, yeah.
Ilgot. a little early Ultravox. I hear
Oh,
him.
interesting.
I
Okay.
hear,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
John Fox era. Yeah, I hear a little bit of that. That's another one. It's nice. And then Strangely Lifelike.
Oh, yeah.
That reminds me of Gary Newman's Cars.
Right.
Just the rhythm and that dun, dun dun dun, kind of sound.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, I hear that one. And well, that's all from that one that I wanted to mention. But
Cool, cool.
from the uh, from the Location EP,
Oh,
um,
yeah.
I like At the Heart of It. That's probably my favorite pick off of that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and that was your next one. And I like
That's right.
I like the covers on all three of those that, again. And then your latest, Boiled Crewman,
That's
that
right. Which is a collaboration with because I mean the thing is between when I was doing all this electronica, but I was playing in various bands as well. Lots of bands actually in Brighton, uh, and this was, yeah, a collaboration with a guy called Neville Bruin, who um, I was playing in this band, playing his song. He's an amazing songwriter, actually. We played together for about 6 years, but you know, he's also, he's quite interested in synthesis as well. So we decided to do this thing of like, it started. It did start in lockdown, actually. It was, yeah, it's the classic lockdown project, and it was like kind of we'd go, right, okay, well, I'm gonna do, a minute and a minute of music, send it over to you. You can decide at what point you want to pick up off the end of it, what you want to do with it, and then send it back, and we just kept on doing that, and ended up with a sort of 25-minute track, and then did some more. It's like, yeah, yeah, that is.
Well, that's yeah. I was going to say that the title stirs up some kind of gruesome images.
What,
Boiled
boiled
crewmen.
crewman? Wait, well, that it is an anagram of our surnames,
Oh, okay. All right. All
MacLeod,
right.
MacLeod and Bruin.
I'm glad you explained that because
It's grotesque. Uh,
I looked at the cover, and I was wondering if it was a reference to the Iraqi War or the Afghanistan. Kind of looks like,
no, no, no,
you
nothing
know.
political like that. No, that's that's a bit of mud from the
Okay.
from the mouth of the river, just along
Uh,
the road from here.
okay. Okay. All right. Now these on that are more soundscapes on that one. Yeah. 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 But really nice. Really nice. Yeah.
Mm.
I High Candy. Here's another one that has some elements reminiscent of Vangelis to me.
Yeah, yeah, no, I think, yeah, I
Can
can
you
hear
hear?
that.
Yeah, a little
Yeah.
bit of that. Yeah, yeah. So there's my what I heard. my,
Well, thank you. Well, listen. Well, thank you for listening. I really
yeah.
appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. You're very welcome. And I always like to try to do that and do some research and you know have something to talk about. More
Yeah,
than
yeah,
anything
yeah,
else.
yeah.
So and give you my 2 cents worth if it's worth that. So right,
Well,
as they
it's
say.
because, because the thing is, a lot of the stuff I do, well, all the stuff but a lot of the stuff I do, obviously, I sort of make music that I want to make,
Yeah,
but it still needs to be heard in order to, I don't know, exist, have validity. I'm not entirely sure, but I kind of think it's you create something and you want other people to respond to it, because the whole, without getting too pretentious. Oh, okay, well, let's get completely pretentious about it.
let's go. Let's
But
dive in.
but no, the thing is, if you create something and like kind of put it out there, then it becomes its own thing. It becomes something different immediately, because if other people hear it, or like kind of read or look at a piece of art, they bring everything of themselves, all their own experiences and resonances to it, and it becomes something that is their own. It
Right.
you know it 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 can it become something that probably is not what the intention was when it was made, because
It takes on a life of its own.
it is exactly. And like kind of,
Yeah.
so it's I enjoy making things,
Yeah.
but at the same time it's lovely to put them out there.
Yeah.
And I mean, I suppose one of the joys of over the years of people being interested in stuff that, especially the stuff that I did back in the 80s and things like that, is that music has played such a huge role in my life. It's so important to me. And I it, I know how much and how important pieces of music that I love are to me, and pieces of music that have that I've responded to, that have moved me. And the idea that anything that I have done, if like kind of one single person out there has like kind of felt a little bit better for 3 minutes from experiencing that, then it's like kind of, well, I mean, that's amazing. And I
I
could not be happier.
I think every musician needs an audience, too, whether it's like the old days or like today, where,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
too many people going to live shows and things like that, but you're, through files and that kind of thing and on the internet.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, I still play in bands now.
Oh
I
yeah,
moved to,
you said you mentioned some of the bands that you play in.
well, I mean, stuff that I mean, in Bristol at the moment. I mean, I'm in a couple of covers bands, including a soul and funk band, which is fantastic. Um, but I'm also working on some original stuff with a guitarist I actually met in and played with in Brighton, who's based over here. So we're putting some stuff together and hoping to gig that. But I mean, when I was in Brighton, as I say, I was playing with this guy Neville with this in this band New Rib. I also had this band Shabaroon with this guy Tim Sagar. Um, but I mentioned Colin Newman from Wire before, and I'd played a bit. Well, I played a couple of things with him and his wife Malka Spiegel. They have a band called one of their projects is called Githead, which they've done releases with Robin Rambo. But anyway, they had a new album out, so I played a gig with them to publicize the new album and that. And
Okay. Well,
yeah, yeah.
did I read on the Bandcamp bio Polish music?
Yeah, yes, you
Okay.
did. Yeah, yeah. So that was for a gig in Brighton, and that was a friend of mine who plays drums, and would sort of like kind of it'd be it's very funny. He'd just sort of like kind of get in touch and say, "Oh, do you want to come along and play with these people?" And he'd just like have assembled this strange, um, you know, miscellany of people together, and like I'd but go into rehearsal room and like kind of anyway. On this occasion, he'd met this uh, Polish singer and a Polish accordion player, and they were playing this gig, and so went along to that, and literally until I stepped onto that stage, I had not met either of these other people. So it's just like kind of I mean I'd had a tape of what songs they thought they were going to play, and
Yeah.
so I just basically like kind of got up there with my bass and I played the gig with them, and it's just like
You survived it,
of course, of course.
huh?
I'm quite good at seat of your pants playing. It's like
Put you on the spot, Johnny on the spot. There you go. There you go. Well, yeah, I thought that was interesting too. I had to find out about that.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. Well, uh, Torquil, can you think of anything else kind of coming to a close here that you like to mention or plug, or what are you working on currently?
Well, I've this morning I was just I was mixing a new piece that I've put together, which is a bit of a floor filler, I reckon. It's a bit techno-y, I suppose.
Oh,
But yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I'll
Um,
see about that. Yeah, I noticed that listening to your latest work, there are moments of that and I think the song might start be ramping up to go in that direction, and then it mellows out again. So it doesn't
Yeah,
quite get, it doesn't quite
yeah, yeah.
reset crescendo. Yeah. But you may be going in that, dabbling in that direction.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, it's like whatever I fancy at the time.
Right.
Yeah, and I've got a gig coming up at the end of in what 10 days time with the soul and funk band, and then rehearsing for a gig with another covers band um next week. So yeah,
Okay.
it's all, hey,
Right.
it's great. I wouldn't
Staying,
have it any other way. But anyway,
staying,
yeah,
staying busy. Well, there you go. Yeah.
yeah.
Keeps you off the street, as they say. Yeah.
It does indeed. It does indeed.
All right. Well, I do appreciate it. And thank you again, Torquil. I've appreciated, your time and sharing and going back and that time machine, as I say sometimes, and going back and reliving those wonder years. And thanks so much. And I will send you a copy of this.
Great.
Probably a little edited, my boo-boos.
Oh, I hope so. Well, and you can cut some of my stuff out. I mean, listen. I mean, my life is one of editing. It's just like,
Right,
it's that's
right.
what I.
I've become pretty adept at that doing these, yeah. So I will send you one probably in a week or so,
Brilliant,
little
brilliant.
edited, and you can put it up, post it where you will, and it'll
Oh,
also be on my channel. So
fabulous.
do that.
Oh, well, thanks so much, Greg. It's been such a pleasure speaking to you. It's really has, and it's lovely to meet you.
Well, lovely to meet you
You
too.
know, and if you're ever over in Bristol, it's
I'll look you up.
or if you decide to go in search of your roots in Scotland, let me know, and I will tell you the good places to go.
Okay, I will remember that. Thank you for thinking of that too as well.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right, all right. Well, all the best to you, okay, Torquil,
And to you.
and continued success and whatever life brings you, okay, and whatever.
Thank you very much.
All right,
Oh,
all right,
great to meet you. Thanks, Greg.
all right.
Have a good rest of your day, man.
Oh, you too. Bye bye for now.
All right. Bye bye. Bye bye.